Time for the Tesla and Palantir weekly update, and gonna include a few other stocks as well. But first off, we're starting with Tesla, and with this chart, this is my linear scale fibs. I've been showing you this for a long time, and look what happened. It finally closed above the 786 fib, the 347.58. So that's a very important weekly candle close. So we're gonna watch that level going into next week, right? 347.58, stay above it. It might be able to break some levels above, and also, when we switch to log scale, we can see that it did break this level above, which is my arc right here, this previous resistance, flipping to a support right here that has not been above it since February of this year. So closing above that is a very, very great development, and that's something we're going to pay attention to in the weeks to come. So if this can actually stabilize on top of that arc, that'll be around that 347 zone that I just showed you on linear scale. And then if we switch to log scale, or if we switch to the log scale fibs right here, I just want to show you that it did not close above that 886. So that 353.19 is going to be the next zone to kind of break above. And it's also very important, right? Once it can get back above that, then perhaps it'll be time to go quote unquote Palantiring, right? Going back towards the 400s, the 500s, and beyond. So that's basically all that's in the way right now to get a lot more bullish. But if we can start to see stability on top of that 347, then perhaps it can break free. But if it starts to lose that arc, then it's just going to be in the same range as before. So that 347, that arc right there is very important to see if it can stabilize. If successful, it's just going to break free and continue the journey higher. And next we have Palantir, and Palantir, I do want to show you that it did not close again above that 1.618 fib. That's the 157.62. That's the most important level that I'm watching to see if we can get the momentum back. And so far we cannot, so that's okay. We're just going to keep watching that zone. But also when I put on the Gann square here, I can just show you that this also closed back below the log-based Gann level. But I want to show you something interesting here, which is this level right here, right? This angle right there. It's essentially been our support angle forever, right? Forever, basically since 2023, when it was just like in the teens there. It was just an area of interest where it tried to flip to a support back in February 2024, but it didn't successfully do it until November of 2024. And ever since then, it's been spending the majority of the time above it, except for the exception of going back to this green level here back in April, right? It touched that then, and then it reclaimed that. And since then, it hasn't really touched that angle yet. So it's something that we're going to look at on this chart, right? We're going to just take a look here and just determine that if price can continue to stay above that angle here, then we're going to actually see price be able to continue that journey higher and break back above that 157.62. And that angle next week is really around the 150 zone, maybe 149, 150 right there. And if successful, can continue that journey higher. So we're going to watch that 157.62, try to break that, even that again level right here, 160, but we'll see if we can try to maintain 150. If it needs to wick a little bit below back into the 140s, I think that's okay. And the reason why it's okay is because my linear scale chart here, it says it's okay, right? We can see that it did do a massive breakout above the green level here. And now if it just wants to stay anywhere between this zone, which would be the low 140s and also the 168, anywhere in this zone is really acceptable before continuing higher. So it doesn't have to stay above this log-based angle the whole week. It can basically just get some liquidity below if it needed to, back into the 140s before continuing higher. But essentially, there is no lower low. It's just a bunch of a consolidation at a higher level, basically the highest level it's ever consolidated, which is a great thing. So let's just watch the zone, 150 down to the 140 zone. Just keep stabilizing in that area. Keep trying to close weekly candles every Friday above this angle here for the attempt to break free of this 157 zone, 160 zone to get a lot more bullish. So nothing is broken on this chart. Very healthy, still consolidating. So I expect it to continue to consolidate until it finds its higher low it was looking for and continue that journey higher. And next we have Robinhood. And Robinhood, I do want to show you my linear scale chart because there was some news after hours about being included in the S&P. So because of that news, we are seeing that price has the potential to maybe break back above some levels. And the level I'm talking about is back above this 1.272 fib, 106.27. And we have the 1.414 that was our recent top back in August, right? It hit that perfectly and came back below. So I'm showing you this because nobody's really talking about the linear scale fibs for Robinhood, but they're actually reacting to price very, very perfectly. So I think they closed the after hours session maybe around the 106. Let's see with the 4-hour candle. What did it close at? Yeah, it closed at 107.35. So it did close the 4-hour candle above it, which is a good start, but we'll see how it opens the week on Monday. So that's the important thing, right? Getting back above this 106.27 is going to really define if it wants to go higher again. But if it does not get back above that 106.27 throughout the whole week, not just Monday, right, then it's nothing has changed because it broke back below it 2 weeks ago. And then it closed the week below this 106.27 this current week. So it's a crucial thing to get back above in order to continue that journey higher. So if it does not do that, then there's really no difference for the last 2 weeks. And then there is still a potential to even go back down to the previous all-time high zone around 85 before continuing that journey higher. So let's just keep watching this 106.27. That's the most important thing. I also have a little bit of confluence on log scale too around that 106. And that's ultimately this arc right here. That arc right here is right around 102, 103, and it lost it this week. So gapping back up above that would also improve the situation to maybe get back up to this log-based fib at the 1.618, which is the fib from February 2025 and April. That is the high and the low. And that is something that was lost. And it also successfully already back-tested that 1.414, the 93. So it's not necessarily guaranteed to go back down to the 80s like I was talking about if this arc really can stabilize as a support and it can get above that 106 zone that I was talking about. But we're not going to have a complete breakout until a few things happen. First off, it's got to get back above this 110.62 on log scale. And then it's got to get back above this 117.37 in order to get to the 130s and above. So regardless of the positive news, there still is resistance above. There still is this 110.62 above. And then there's also this 117.37 after that. But the important thing is finding stability above this 106.27 and also on log scale trying to flip this arc back to a support in order to get more and more bullish. So that's the main thing I'm watching, getting back on top of this arc and getting above and staying above this 106.27 for the whole week in order to continue that journey higher, because if not, then nothing has changed at all and it's still just range bound and stuck under resistance. And next we have Coinbase. And Coinbase, there's only a few things I need to show you because it's still stuck in a range. And the few things I want to show is my linear scale chart, how it's essentially just stuck in between the arcs here, the 320 and the 280 zone down below. It's just stuck in between there. This angle, it actually did start to close a little bit below it, so it has a lot more resistance, which means it could take more time. But the one thing we do need to pay attention to is just the weekly Ichimoku baseline right there, which is at 293. We can also change it to the monthly chart too, and the monthly conversion line is still also at 293.61. So it's still just maintaining support, hitting that multiple months in a row, and finding stability is kind of crucial for this potential to continue higher. So what we're just going to pay attention to next week and the weeks to come is just price maybe finding stability inside of these arcs, still inside of, or above, I should say, this conversion line at 293.61. And when it's ready, it'll be able to break free of this 320 barrier, 318 barrier that we've talked about numerous times. So don't really need to go into too much detail because it's just consolidating and range bound until it's ready to break free and continue higher. So the levels I'm watching next week, still that 293, and the bottom arc is a possible for a liquidity grab, maybe in the low 280s. That's a possibility, but nothing has really changed on this chart. It's just a big breakout, rejection, consolidation after this big back test, right? And it's also a previous resistance zone trying to flip to support. So nothing is too scary about this chart. It's just going to need more time before it's ready to continue the journey higher. And lastly, we're going to do MicroStrategy. And MicroStrategy, there's just a few things I need to point out on this chart too, because after price did go below this arc right here a couple of weeks ago, it went down to get more liquidity lower, down towards this 1.414 log base fib, 340. It did close below it, but we're not having too much fear, or I'm not having too much fear, because it's actually a very important zone because of the weekly Ichimoku cloud. And in fact, that did finally touch it, right? I think I mentioned this before, that if you zoom out, right, if you zoom out, the last time this actually touched that weekly Ichimoku cloud was when it broke out back in September of 2023. It never touched it here, got really close. Never touched it over here, got really close. Never touched it here, got really close. So now we can zoom in again and see that all of that close touches, see right here, never got it right here, but it finally did just now. And in fact, it even wicked through the bottom of the cloud and it bounced and it held perfectly. So I think this 322 zone is actually a very important zone. We're going to keep watching that zone. And the reason why is also because if you just switch to linear scale, these fibs actually line up perfectly. And that is the linear scale 2.618, 322.82 right here, which lines up exactly with the bottom of the cloud, which lines up exactly with a beautiful breakout right here, breakout and a back test of that zone. So that is what I'm watching the most. 322, bottom of the cloud, around the cloud, and just stabilizing in that zone. If price can continue to do that, then we're going to just keep consolidating nicely and just stay inside the cloud or a little bit above the cloud until it's ready to break free of this resistance. So this is basically just a sideways consolidation for a very long time for MicroStrategy since this monster breakout, right? Had a very huge rally from 100s to the 500s, and then it just went sideways ever since November of 2024. So almost a year of just going sideways. So of course, after you have big breakouts, sometimes that sideways action happens. And these are at the fib extensions. So it's actually a very important thing to have this consolidation until it's ready to continue that journey higher. So I need to see the 320s hold, and I need to see this arc gets broken as a resistance to get a lot more bullish. So in the meantime, it can be range bound, and even next week it can even wick below that cloud again as well if it wanted to. But I'm looking for weekly candle closes above that cloud continuously in the weeks to come. So that's 322. But during the week, it can go anywhere at once in between these arcs. That's fine. I just want to see stability above the arc with the weekly candle closes. And once it's back on top of that arc, then we can start talking about going back towards the 400s and above, but not until then. So in the meantime, just enjoy the consolidation. It's probably going to go sideways, consolidate a little bit longer before ready to break this 360 barrier up here, which is the arc, and try to get more bullish after that.